SCP-1150, Object Class Safe. SCP-1150 are sentient entities with human-like psychology that share bodies with willing human hosts through poorly understood means. SCP-1150 are aware of all behaviors, interactions, and emotional states of their hosts, but cannot usually perceive individual thoughts or memories. They appear to be immune to all amnestics, excluding a slight susceptibility to, which is likely due to neurological damage to the host at high doses. While the host is conscious, there is no known means of detecting the presence of SCP-1150, save for the occasional brief appearance of anomalous REM-like EEG traces in some subjects, namely sleep spindles and K-complexes. The Foundation currently tracks 38 instances of SCP-1150, maintains 3 instances in D-Class personnel for testing purposes, employs 2 instances along with their hosts, and maintains 1 instance in Level 3 confinement for security reasons. When the human host of an instance of SCP-1150 falls asleep, they immediately enter REM, dream state sleep, and the SCP-1150 entity gains control of the host body for a period of 5 to 16 hours. This duration varies with the mental fortitude and willingness of the host and the relative strength of the entity. While the SCP is in control, it acts, behaves, and generally has physiological reactions identical to those of a normal human, albeit one with memories and personality traits different from those of the host. At the end of its period of control, SCP-1150 becomes sluggish and appears to sleep. 1 to 2 minutes later, the host awakes and regains control of their body. Hosts generally report that they're fully rested and are generally unaware of what has transpired while they were asleep. Note, however, that individuals who have hosted SCP-1150 for prolonged periods, several years or more, become gradually more aware of the actions of their passengers. SCP-1150 can be transferred from host to host through physical contact. While it appears that almost any skin-to-skin contact is sufficient to transfer SCP-1150, direct forehead-to-forehead contact allows for transfer times as low as 15 seconds. Conversely, transfer takes approximately 4 minutes via hand or foot contact. If the contact is disrupted at any point during the transfer, the entity remains in the original host. Recipients of SCP-1150 report a pleasant buzzing sensation and exhibit a slightly elevated stress response, but appear otherwise unaffected by this transfer. In all instances, save those documented in the attached experiment log, the recipient of SCP-1150 must be willing to accept the entity. There are no known means for destroying an instance of SCP-1150, though they can be incapacitated indefinitely by killing and interring the host. The Foundation first became aware of SCP-1150 on June 27, 1982, shortly after the FBI raid on the Kismet Doorway cult in Bloom Hill, Arkansas. Foundation resources within the Bureau learned of a high-ranking cult member in FBI custody with potential SCP properties. The Foundation arranged to transfer to Site-40 due to its proximity to, and there conducted the initial interviews with the entity, currently classified as SCP-1150-1. -1 subsequently assisted in the identification of 3 additional instances of SCP-1150 associated with the Kismet Doorway. Addendum. On December 10, 2008, the recovery of sensitive documents in a raid on Marshall Carter and Dark Ltd. indicates that MC and D are currently employing at least 2 instances of SCP-1150 to infiltrate the Foundation as sleeper agents to obtain classified information on SCPs and Foundation security. These entities are being carried completely unknown to the SCP employee hosts and are able to see, hear, and experience everything that the host does. It is unknown how these agents are getting information back to MC and D, given that Foundation research has not revealed any outward manifestations of SCP-1150 when they piggyback on an unwitting host. Experiment Log SCP-1150. Experiment SCP-1150-5A. Date: September 16, 2003. Description: 1150-5, then occupying D-1905, was brought into physical contact with subject D-2002 and directed to initiate transfer. D-2002 was an otherwise healthy 27-year-old Hispanic male who sustained reticular damage due to medication-induced seizure and was consequently in an irrecoverable coma state. Result: 1150-5 successfully transferred to D-2002 after approximately 65 seconds of limb-to-limb contact. Sensors placed 1 meter from the subjects detected very low amplitude, approximately 25 megawatts. Radio noise during the transfer. D-2002 subsequently awoke when -5 gained control of the body. Thorough examination reveals none of the cognitive or motor defects common in coma recovery patients. EEG recordings of D-2002 show waveforms typical of other SCP-1150 recordings, which should be impossible due to the state of reticular damage. When -5 lapses into its inactive state, D-2002 once again becomes comatose and exhibits EEG waveforms indicative of deep coma. In the D-2002 host, -5 exhibits a 16.5-hour active state and an 8-hour inactive state. This differs significantly with the normal distribution of activity-inactivity seen in normal instances of SCP-1150. Researcher's note: computer analysis of the radio noise reveals a high degree of organization and patterning. The significance of or meaning of these patterns has yet to be determined. Dr. Bimston. Experiment SCP-1150-5B. Date: September 29, 2003. Description: 3 hours into his comatose state, subject D-2002, the current host of -5, was euthanized with a lethal dose of sodium pentobarbital. Result: upon cardiac arrest, -5 gained control of D-2002 and attempted to escape from its restraints, causing significant injury to the limbs and hands of D-2002. EEG activity became typical of SCP-1150 waveforms. Notably, cardiac function did not resume, and -5 became more lethargic until collapsing after 620 seconds. The amplitude of EEG waves gradually decreased over this time period. Experiment SCP-1150-5C. Date: September 29, 2003. Description: 2 hours after the cessation of all movement, D-Class subject D-1968, a 34-year-old white female with an IQ of 70, was directed to touch the arm of D-2002, under the impression that she was feeling for a pulse. Result: approximately 5 seconds after initiating contact, D-1968 jumped back, stating she had been shocked. Sensors placed 1 meter from the subjects detected medium amplitude, approximately 700 megawatts, radio noise, lasting 0.3 seconds. Subsequent observation of D-1968 did not reveal any behavioral or cognitive anomalies, though EEG analysis revealed minor anomalies associated with SCP-1150 presence. Experiment SCP-1150-5D. Date: October 13, 2003. After 2 weeks of observation in which no symptoms of -5 were manifest, subject D-1968 was told that she had been exposed to a benign angel spirit during Experiment 5C. After 2 weeks of further observation, subject D-1968 was convinced by an SCP Confederate posing as D-Class personnel that she was instead possessed by an evil demon. Result: after being informed of the presence of -5, the passenger manifests itself during 1968's next sleep cycle. Over the next 2 weeks, -5 manifests for an average of 10.5 hours each night. During this time period, 1968 experienced a moderate increase in IQ to 83 and motor coordination. After being told that -5 was evil, the period of manifestation was reduced to 8 hours and IQ returned to baseline levels. Researcher's note: This indicates that A. SCP-1150 is capable of rapid transfer to an unwitting or unwilling host, but cannot secure control without some level of host awareness and/or consent, and B. The degree of host willingness correlates to the amount of time that SCP-1150 is active. Dr. Bimston. Experiment SCP-1150-18A. Date: January 11th, 2008. Description: SCP-1150-18 was made to repeatedly transfer between several D-Class personnel to determine the conditions in which transfers are possible. Result: 18 was capable of transferring regardless of the state of its current host, but was unable to transfer to a new, unconscious host in any circumstance. Upon transfer to a new host, 18 entered its dormant state regardless of whether it had been active at the time of transfer. Experiment SCP-1150-18B. Date: January 21st, 2018. Description: 18 was made to repeatedly transfer between several D-Class personnel in an experimentation room saturated with 50 to 100 MHz radio wave interference, the same frequency band measured from SCP-1150 during transfer. Result: 18 was capable of transferring in all conditions, but the duration required for transfer was substantially increased with higher levels of interference, plateauing around 700 seconds at power levels above 100 kilowatts. Researchers note: it appears that the radio burst is a facilitative effect, or perhaps a side effect, rather than a necessary condition for the transfer. Experiment SCP-1150-18C. Date: March 6, 2008. Description: 18 was hosted by D-1412, a 68-year-old black male who suffered from diabetes and CHD. Experiment 18A was carried out after D-1412 died of natural causes, heart attack. Several handling protocols were employed to access the limits of SCP-1150 host-to-host transfer after death. See also Experiment 5C. Result: approximately 4 hours after death, the body was handled by Mrs. Gomez, a Level 1 research technician wearing a standard chemical hazard suit with insulated gloves, who transferred the body to Site 40 Crematorium. No SCP-1150 transfer was observed to occur at this point. 5 weeks after full cremation, subject D-2333, a 50-year-old white female, was directed to manually sift the ashes. After approximately 4 seconds, she quickly withdrew her hand from the box of ashes, reporting that she had touched something sharp and prickly, like a cactus. Subsequent analysis revealed that SCP-1150-18 had transferred to D-2333 in a passive state, as in the initial transfer during Experiment 5C. Researchers note: how the hell are we supposed to kill these things? Dr. Rosenberg. Special Containment Procedures. All newly identified instances of SCP-1150 must be cataloged and subject to biannual reconfirmation, as per the Safe Category Tracking Procedures of the Aegis Protocol. All SCP-1150 manifesting in D-Class personnel should be housed in standard isolation cells or in dormitories containing only other instances of SCP-1150. Outside of approved testing protocols, D-Class SCP-1150 must not be permitted prolonged greater than 15 seconds touch contact with other humans or sentient animals via skin contact or through skin or conductive fabrics. Note that this is a cautionary measure only, as SCP-1150 can transfer to unwilling or unaware subjects only in unusual circumstances, such as those delineated in the SCP-1150 research log.